Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up authentication using the latest version of NextAuth, now called Auth.js, in a Next.js project with TypeScript and MongoDB. We'll cover both credentials login and OAuth, store user data in MongoDB, and I'll walk you through the entire setup using the Next.js 15 app router. Now, along the way, I will show you how to fix a few common issues, especially that annoying credential signing error that comes up when something is off with your login logic or credentials config. If you've run into that before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, clean setup, no third-party auth services, just full control using Auth.js, MongoDB, and Next.js. And this login and sign up page you're seeing right now is for my next project. So this is just like a trailer. So I'm building a full stack application. So if it's something you want to learn or you just have an interest, so hit the subscribe button and just comment anything, like, so that YouTube pushes this video up. Yeah, thank you, and let's get started. Okay, so before we start working with Auth.js, which is NextAuth version 5, what I want to do is to first show you what I've done so that you won't be lost and maybe you can find yourself and implement this NextAuth in your application. Alright, so first thing I have is my sign-in page. This is a normal page which doesn't work yet. As you can see, this handles sign-in function. What it does is just console.log the states, which for now I just set it to the normal way you get your input from the user. So this does nothing. Let me show you so this is the login page, and if you click on it in your client console, it's going to show only the information that the user entered. Nothing works. I don't want to test it because I don't want to make this video so long. And the next one is the sign up page. This one is a little bit different from the sign in page because what I want is that when a user signs up, it stores the information in MongoDB. That one does not include anything concerning Auth.js, and then it redirects the user to the sign in page where the user can sign in with Auth.js so that the session will be saved, so that NextAuth will handle the session, because I don't really want to handle the JWT cookies wherever by myself by implementing the route handlers. I can do that, but some errors might occur, so I want NextAuth to handle that for me. So that is the purpose of this video. Alright, so if you go to the sign up page, when the user inputs the username, email, and password, let me show you how it will be. This is how it looks in MongoDB. The username, email, and password. The user is saved in MongoDB already. But right now, even though the user exists, how do we get the information from the user, or how do we preserve the session? So that is why I want to use this Auth.js. So just a quick, I don't know if it's a disclaimer, I might say Auth.js or NextAuth. It means the same thing because Auth.js is NextAuth version 5. Alright, so I don't really want to work on these credentials first. Let's work on the continue with Google, which is OAuth. So to work on this, let's go to the documentation. So this is Auth.js documentation. You can just come here and click on get started, and then we're using Next.js, so you click on Next.js. Alright, so now we have to install this. You copy that, I'm going to put the documentation in description as well. Come to your VS Code, and to open the terminal you can just press Ctrl J, and I have my application running. To close that you can press Ctrl C, then Y, and then Ctrl V to paste the command you copied, npm install next-auth at beta, and you click on enter. Then you wait for it to get installed. Okay, so after installing, what next? First we are going to make our server running again, npm run dev, and yeah, so we can close this, Ctrl J, and then we'll go back to our documentation, and let's go up. let's see. So the only environment variable that is mandatory is the auth secret. So to get that, I think we have to run this as well, npx auth secret. So let's copy that, Ctrl J, and sadly we'll close this again, and then let's paste that and click on enter. Okay, so as you can see, you can see this information here, added auth secret to my env file. So let's confirm if this actually exists in our .env.local. Let's see. So as you can see, this is the auth secret. So it was added by npx auth, something like that. Alright, so after this, what next? Let's go back to our code, our documentation. So the next thing we have to do is to configure Auth.js. So we have to create this new Auth.js file at the root of my application. So I'll copy this, and then we'll go to the root of the application, which is here, and click on create a new file. Name this Auth.ts, and you paste the code which you copied from there. Ctrl S. So I think that let's just continue with the documentation. So the next thing is to add a route handler under /app/API/auth, then /this stuff here. Let me copy that, and routes.ts. So let me copy this, then we'll go to /app/API/auth, and then create a new folder. You paste in this one, click on enter, and then you create a new file called that route.ts. Now let's go back to the documentation. Now what we just need to do is copy this code, then you go into this and paste it as well. Ctrl S. And what is the next thing? So we can add an optional middleware. I don't really need a middleware. I'm going to handle everything myself. So if you need a middleware, you can just copy this and work on that as well. Alright, so now the next thing, like I said, we're going to work on this continue with Google functionality first. So let's go to authentication, and then we'll go to OAuth. And since we are working with Google, you click on Google. Okay, so now they said we have to add the callback URL to Google whatever. So to add this stuff, we are going to go to console.cloud.google.com. So once you go there, you just follow the stuff, register your account if you have not done that before. And then once you are in this page, you click on API and services. Now inside this API and services, you click on credentials, and then you can click on create credentials. And now we need the client ID and secret, so you click on OAuth client ID. Now we are required to enter our application type. We are doing a web application, so you click on web application, and the name, I can just call this Auth.js test, just like this. And then the authorized JavaScript origin, you add a URL, and we can call this http://localhost:3000, because that is what we are going to that is what we are using currently. So localhost 3000. If you host this, if you host it, or you buy a domain, you are just going to come here and add a URI, and then you add in the domain which you've bought or something like that. Now add the authorized redirect URI. So for this one, we'll go back to the authentication, and then you copy this, go into the authorized URI, paste it there, and then you clear out this origin. Our origin for now is our local host, so http://localhost 3000/API/auth/callback/Google. So that is that, and then you click on create. Now we need to copy the client ID and the client secret. So you copy this client ID, go back to your .env.local, and then we paste that. Now we need the label for that, so we'll go to our OAuth provider, this documentation, and then you can see this label, copy this label, and then go into your application and paste that. Now this is the client ID, so we can just cut this and then replace this with the client ID. The next one is the client secret, so you go to this your console, copy the client secret, go into your VS Code or any code editor of your choice, and you paste it there. Ctrl S, save that, and then make sure you do that before closing this, because if you did not copy this and you close it, you have to delete it and create a new one, which is not bad, but just follow the instructions. Okay, and then this has been created. You can see this Auth.js test. So what is the next thing? The next thing is to set up the providers. Alright, so now we'll go to our Auth.js, which we've created, and then we're going to add in Google. I think it's a capital G. Let's import that. I don't know, it's taking time to import, so let me go back to the documentation and then copy the import statement from here, Ctrl C, and then you paste it here, just like this, Ctrl S. Now let's go back. We have done this already. Now the next thing is to add the sign in button. We already have a sign in button, so we just need a function to call the sign in button. So as you can see, this is for the client own. If you are working in a server component, this is how you do that. Normally this is how you do a server component stuff. So you just have a form, the action, use server, and then you call the sign in function. But mine is a client component, so I just need the sign in function. So I'll copy this button here, this code here, copy this, and then back inside our code I will go into my sign in page. Let me close this API, sign in page here, and then I will look for that button. As you can see, this is the continue with Google button, and I will paste it here. Now I need to import that. So import that from NextAuth. Where is it? Yeah, so import sign in from next-auth/react. Alright, now that we have that, I don't think there is anything to do next. Let's see, let's go back to the documentation. Okay, so now it should work. According to what is in their documentation, it should work. So let's refresh this so that everything sets up well. Okay, and it can't be reached. So let's go back to our terminal and let's run that. npm run dev. Okay, so now let's test that out. Let's click on this continue with Google button. Let's see if anything happens. Nothing happened. Let's go back here. Okay, it's compiling. So I don't know why my stuff is slow now, but let's just see what happens. Okay, alright, the URL has changed right now. Yeah, So as you can see my information here. So I should choose an account to sign in. I'm going to go with this one. So click on that and you are signing back into project whatever. You can change that in your Google Cloud here. You can change the name, and then I'll click on continue. Okay, so now we got a server error. So let's see what the problem is. Like I said before, this YouTube channel, I'm going to show you all the errors I get. I'm not going to fix a problem without you knowing why we fixed that problem, or without even knowing that we fixed a problem. Alright, so let's check where the problem is coming from. So we're having a callback route error. So let's see where the problem is. Okay, so I think that nothing actually went wrong. So it is because of this. I'm coming, let me show you this Google ID and Google secret. You know that when creating that, they're going to tell you that it takes at least 5 minutes to propagate or something like that. Yeah, okay, it may take 5 minutes to a few hours for settings to take effect. So I think that is where the problem is coming from. So it has not yet recognized our ID and secret yet, so that was why it threw that error. But if you still face the error, just comment in the description and I will find a way to fix the problem if it occurs. I doubt. Alright, so back to this. Let's test it again. Continue with Google. Let's see. And I'll click on my account. Continue. And as you can see, I've been redirected back to the sign-in page. I'm seeing one issue here. Let's see where the issue is coming from. Okay, this MetaMask is not actually part of our problem. Alright, it's because of my Chrome extension, this MetaMask here. Alright, so now that it's redirected us back to this sign-in page, how do we know that this information, or how do we know that we are signed in? We can do that by getting our session. So let's go to our sign-in page, and then under, let me close the terminal. Under the states, I can just say const. I will destructure data from use session, so use session, and then I'm going to say const session will be equal to data, just like this. Make sure you import use session from Next.Auth/React. Import that, and now we can console.log our session to see if we are actually signed in or something went wrong. Now let's Ctrl S and let's check our browser. Alright, we got this error. Use session must be wrapped in a session provider. Alright, so this is a client component, so we have to go to layout.tsx and then wrap everything inside the session provider. Import that also from Next-Auth/React, and then you wrap everything in session provider. Ctrl S and back to our browser. Let it load. Finish. Alright, so let's go to our console and let's see if our session is saved. So console. Alright, so you can see the session. Yeah, we have expired the expired date, and then the user object, which involves my email, my image, and my name, which is wonderful. Alright, so we can make a few changes. So after signing with Google, signing in with Google, we shouldn't redirect back to the sign in page. Instead, we should go back to the home page where we'll have a maybe logout button or something like that. So to do that, we are going to go back to the sign in page, and then in this function we can just put a comma and then add in redirect to. That is a redirect to, and then you come here and put slash, not slash div, slash. Why am I having a problem? Or it should be wrapped in curly braces as options. Let's see. So yeah, you wrap that in curly braces and it's gone. So let's Ctrl S and let's clear our application data. Let's clear everything in our cookie. And now let's continue with Google again. And let me just make a few notice. Why you are seeing this pop up again is because of what I added in the code. Normally you won't be pop up like after signing in the first time, you won't see this anymore. It will just redirect you to the home page after signing in. That's the proper way authentication worked. So what I did was I added this authorization stuff, but let me remove it. I just did that to debug the application why it wasn't working that last time. So let me remove this. Sorry. So let me remove this. And yeah, this was how it was before. So Ctrl S, and I'll continue with my name. Continue. And I should be taken back to the home page instead of the sign in page. But let's see if it will work. If it doesn't work, we're going to debug. We're programmers. Yeah. Alright, I think this is having problem because of that stuff I just removed. Okay. Chill. Yeah. We have been redirected back to the home page, and you can see this sign in button here, which takes us back to the sign in page. Alright, so that is nice. And we can also have the sign out button. So let's go back to the home page. Let's just add that sharp. So for that you have a button, or let's wrap it in a div, and then your button from shard.cn, and we'll just say sign out. You can just give this a variant type of variant. Variant rather. The type should be outline, not type of variant, and then outline. And then we can call the sign out function. So inside here I can just create a new function So it's going to be asynchronous function, async function, let's just say handle sign out, and then we can come here and just say await. Then NextAuth gives us a function, so await sign out from next-auth/react await sign out, and then we can give this a property and say redirect false, so that we'll handle the redirect by ourselves. And then you can just come here and we can get router. So const router will be use router, and since we're using a hook, Next.js requires us to make our component a client component, because hook provides interactivity. Alright, so now we can just come here and say router dot push, and then after signing out you should push the user back to the sign out page. So I have to call this, so it should push the user to the sign in page rather, and then you can just add a optional toast. If you don't have toast, you can just console.log the stuff. So import toast. I already have this set up already, toast.success, and then you can just say logged out successfully, something like this. This is just to show you something. So let's just save this, and then back into let me go back to the home page. Let me refresh that, and we should see the sign out button. So we have the sign out button, so we can just click on sign out. Okay, so nothing happened. That is because we did not call the function. After creating a function, we did not come on. Okay, so we just put an onClick function here, onClick, and then handle sign out, Ctrl S, and let's click on the function. This should work now. Let's see. So logged out successfully, and then I should be taken to the sign in page. Perfect. So I've logged out, and if we go back, you will see a session of undefined. I think let's just see. So the session is null because we are signed out of the account. For our session to come back, we have to continue with Google again. But right now we are continuing with Google, and we are able to sign in. But then if I go back to our MongoDB and refresh, if I refresh, I'm not going to see that user. But we don't want that. At least for me, I don't want that. I want that when a user signs in with Google, or you use the normal email and password field, it should show inside my database. That's what I want. I want all my users should to be inside my database, so that I can manage all of them at the same time. Alright, how do I do that? Now, after signing in with Google, we can manipulate the callback to direct the user into our MongoDB database. I'm going to show you, because that's my work. So for that, you are going to go into your Auth.js file again inside here, and then you are going to add the callback. You're just going to add callback. After this provider, you come here and say callbacks, just like this, and then you put in curly braces. Now this is where we have to think. So we are actually signing in the user. So we can just come here and say async. I've forgotten where I saw it. I would have showed you where I saw it in the documentation, but I don't know. I'm just using this one. I got this one based on my experience. Yeah, so I'm just going to say await sign in, and then not await, async, any way you want to pronounce it. Async sign in, and then we're going to be getting three things from this function. We're going to get the user, the account, and the profile, just like this. And yeah, so we have to import sign in, or I don't know what is the problem there. I don't know the problem. Let's see. We are not importing sign in. Let's just continue coding. So now we have to check if the user signed in with Google or not. So we are going to say if the user signed in with Google. So if account dot provider is equal to Google. So if the user signed in with Google, we are going to perform our magic here. We are going to perform magic, and then if not, if the user did not sign in with Google, we just want to return true, just like this, and that error is gone. Yeah, so now this is where the issue is. It's not an issue. I'm here to break it down for you. Alright, so first thing we'll do now is we're going to be doing some normal coding here. Alright, so if the user signed in with Google, what do we want to do? We want to save the user in our database. So how do we do that? How do we do that in a normal sense? Just think of it in that way. How do we save a user normally in MongoDB? First thing we do is to connect to our database. So await connect DB. I already have this. Like I said, this is not a MongoDB course. This is not a MongoDB tutorial. So if I'm doing this, if you are watching this video on how to connect NextAuth and MongoDB, I expect you to already know MongoDB. So you should have your connect to database function already. Alright, so now after connecting to our database, what next? We have to check if the user already exists in our database. That is the normal way to do things. So we have to check if there is an existing user. So const existing user, this will be equal to await user dot create, not create. So what am I saying? We are looking for an existing user, so we are going to be using find one. So user dot find one, and let's import. I'm importing user from Lucid. No, the user is from our model, so you import here this one. Import the user from your model. Yeah, so import user from model slash user dot model, and user dot find one, we are going to be finding based on the user email. So I'm going to say email. This will be the profile dot email. So profile dot I don't know, my VS Code is having issues right now. I don't know, everything is becoming slow. So profile dot email, just like this. So with this now, we have checked, or we are checking if the profile email exists in our database. You know that I showed you my database. Let me show you my database again. Yeah, so there's an email field here. So what it does is that it is checking if when the user signs in with Google, if the user profile email is inside our users table in our MongoDB database. So now we're going to perform some if statement. So we'll say if it doesn't exist. So if no existing user, if the user doesn't exist, we are going to create a new user. So const new user, this will be equal to what? Await user dot create. There are multiple ways to create a user in MongoDB, so anyhow you do yours, you do it like that and let it work. Okay, so the next thing we are going to get is the username. So if you check my MongoDB database, like I said, we have the username and the email. We don't need the password since the user is signing in with Google, so we don't need the password. So just come here and say the username. This will be equal to the profile dot name, and then the email profile dot name, and the email will be profile dot email. Why is my VS Code so slow? Yeah, profile, why is this one giving me error? Yeah, so the username will be profile.name and the email will be profile.email. Now the next thing we are going to do is to set our user ID to the ID that MongoDB gives us. So we want, when we check the session, the session gives us an ID, and then MongoDB also gives us an ID. So we do not want a confusing ID, so we have to set the user ID to be this MongoDB ID, so this one here. So to do that, we are going to just come here and say user.id will be equal to the new user which we've created, then dot underscore id, because if you check MongoDB you see that the id is with an underscore. Yeah, so underscore id, and then we'll convert this to string, dot to string, you call that, just like this. So if there is no existing user, that means the user already exists in the database, which means that maybe the user already used the email and password, the normal credentials field to store itself in our database or another way. So if the user already exists in our database but is trying to sign in using Google, we don't need to create a new user. The only thing we have to do is to change the user ID to our existing user ID. So to do that, we just say else user.id will be equal to existing user dot underscore id. Remember that the existing user is from our database, dot id dot to string, just like this. Now I think we are done with this, so Ctrl S and let's go and test this out. So let's, yeah, our function is running, not function, our server is running rather. Ctrl S and let's go back to our application. Let's sign out. Okay, now let's sign in with Google and let's check if my information will be saved inside my MongoDB database. So continue with Google. Okay, so I've been redirected to the home page, which implies that I've been signed in successfully. So now let's check our MongoDB database if truly our callback function, if it worked. So let's refresh our MongoDB database right here. Okay, so as you can see, we had one before and now we have two. So let's check. Yeah, so yeah, it works. So now we have the ID, the username, which is my name, and my email. But as you can see, we do not have the password field because we did not sign up using the normal credentials. We signed in using Google Authentication. So for Google authentication, yeah, we are done with that one. The next thing we are going to work on now is signing in using credentials. So let me sign out again, and then back to our documentation. We are going to come here, go into credentials. So right here they said the industry has come a long way since usernames and passwords, whatever. That in summary, what they are saying is that credentials is an old-fashioned stuff. But if you want that your application, like me, I still prefer the old way of email and password. If you are an old school like me, so let's make this work. Alright, so credentials provider, school. Okay, now make sure we're in Next.js, and then we're just going to copy. We're going to copy from here. What am I doing? Copy from here till there. Yeah, so let's copy this, and then we'll go to our application, go to Auth.js. Now under this Google, not under, rather beside it, you put a comma and then you paste it there, just like that. And then we need to import credentials, so you copy the import statement as well, Ctrl C, and then we paste it there, Ctrl S. Now you can see the email and password. We are going to leave this like that, and then authorize the async credentials, let user blah 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 blah. Okay, now let's change this to work with our own. First thing we are going to do is to remove this let user whatever. We will remove this, and since we are signing in with credentials, we are going to first connect to our database. You know, we're using MongoDB, so I want to be pretty bit different, little bit different. Yeah, so await connect DB. Yeah, so I've connected to our database. The next thing we're going to do is to say yeah, they did something like this, which is await get users from DB. So we're going to do that right now so we can get rid of this. So we'll say const user. This will be equal to await user dot find one, and then we're going to find the user, you know, based on the email. So we'll say based on the email. And how do we get the email? Remember that we are passing the email and password to the credentials field, which means that the credentials have the email and the password, so we can fetch the user based on credentials dot email, just like this. And now we can say if no user. So let me get rid of this one. We're going to do something similar like this, but we'll get rid of that. So if no user, we're going to just throw new error, invalid credentials. Okay, and then we're going to come down. So that means if there is a user, for us to pass this step means that there is a valid user. So the next thing is to check if the password is valid. So if what the user entered is actually, if it exists inside our database. Yeah, so what we are going to do is to say const is valid password. This will be equal to await. We are using bcrypt.js, so we'll just say bcrypt. So await bcrypt dot compare, and then we are going to compare our credentials password to the user password. So we can just say credentials dot password, we are going to compare it to our user dot password. So if you go to our database, you are going to see that the user password is hashed. So let me increase this. You will see that the user password is hashed, which is why we cannot do a normal comparison. That is why we are using Bcrypt.js to compare if the user password is equal to what was entered in the credentials field. And now we are getting an error, no overload matches this call. And how do we fix this? We can fix this by using the knowledge command or something. I've forgotten what they call that. So you just wrap all this in bracket. You call this as string, you typecast this to string, and then you put double colon with a string, just like that. I think this should do the trick. Let's see. My VS Code is slow. Yeah, so that did the trick. So you typecast credentials as string, and then if it doesn't exist, you default it to an empty string. Alright, so after knowing if the password is valid or not, so I'm going to do another if statement. So if the password is not valid, so you put in the exclamation mark. If it is not valid, is valid, so we are going to just throw a new error. So just copy this one, you come here and you paste it just like that. And then if everything goes well, just like they did here, you return the user. Ctrl S, and let's test this out. How are we going to test this out? First thing, we need to pass in the email and password. So we'll go to our sign in page, and then inside the sign in, let's go inside our sign in page. Yeah, so inside this function, this handle sign in function, we can get rid of this console.log, and let's just say await sign in from NextAuth. Yeah, because if you look at this one, we sign in with Google. So right now we're going to sign in with credentials. So credentials, yeah, sign in with credentials. The credentials is looking for two things: the email and the password. So you can just add in the email and the password. Let me check if what I'm saying is actually making sense. Yeah, so we're going to come here and say the user email. Like I said, we already have the email in our state, so we're going to pass in the email and the password, and then we can do the same thing we did before. Redirect, we'll tell it shouldn't redirect, we'll handle that by ourselves. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to, since we are redirecting by ourselves, we are going to need a router. So we'll just come here and say const router. This will be equal to use router. Make sure you import that from next/navigation, not next/router. So next/navigation router, and then after signing in, you can just come here, give a toast notification, import from Sonar toast.success, and then you can just say signed in successfully, and you redirect back to the home page or anywhere you want to redirect to, totally your choice. So router.push, and then back to the home page. So I don't know, let's test this out if it will work. So let's go to our component here, and let's see what this one is john@gmail.com. I probably remember the password. So let me put in a fake, or let me sign in first, john@gmail.com, john@gmail.com, and then the password 123456. I think that was what I used. And then let me sign in. Let's see if it will work. Let's see. Yeah, so you can see this stuff here. Sign in successfully. I should be taken back to the home page. Yeah, so I'll be taken back to the home page, and then if I go to my console, I should see only my email, because this is signing in with Google, with credentials. So let's see my session. Yeah, so you can see that the email is john@gmail.com, so which means that you are able to sign in with Google and you have been able to sign in with credentials. But there is a problem. Let me sign out and let me show you where that issue is. So if I sign out right now, logged out successfully, to take me back to the sign in page right now. Now, in case I put in a wrong information, let's say john@gmail.co instead of com, and then I put in a wrong password as well, or even though it's a correct password, as long as any of them is incorrect, if I click on sign in, you are going to see something right now. So it showed signing successfully, which is actually wrong. We actually didn't sign in. It is not meant to. The information is wrong, so you should not sign in. So how? And let's check our console. You can see this error. Callback route error, invalid credentials. So it got the error, but it still allowed us to sign in, which doesn't make sense. So how do we fix this? We can fix this by getting the response. So let's where is this? Let me close this, and I can say const response will be equal to await that, and then let me just console.log the response. Console.log response. Console.log the response. Ctrl S, and then let's sign out again. And let's open our console in our client environment. Now inside this console, let's try this out. Let's check what we are going to get as a response. So let me put in a wrong stuff again. john@gmail. Let's say .con, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 whatever, and then if I click on sign in, let's see what I'm going to get as a response. So if you look at this, you are going to see the code, the error, okay, the status, and the URL. So with this now, we can actually solve this problem. We are getting the error, but our application cannot handle that, and NextAuth actually said that we are going to handle that ourselves. So what we can do is we are going to first change this our error message to actually make sense. So we'll go to Auth.js again, and then we are going to create a custom error message. So let's go all the way to the top, and then we are going to say class custom error extends. I actually saw this information from a GitHub, from their GitHub stuff. So I don't know where, if I can find that, but I'm going to give what do they call that again? I forgot. I'm going to give credit. Yeah, I'm going to give credit to who solved this problem. I won't take that credit. I'm not the one who did that. So extends credentials sign in. So credentials sign in just like this, and then you can say constructor. You add in the error code, so it is going to accept an error code which is going to be a string, and then what you are going to do is super. You call that, you are going to call super. To be honest, I don't really understand what I'm doing, but this was the error. This was what fixed the problem for me. So this dot code will be equal to code, and this dot message will be equals to code as well, and then this dot stack will be equal to undefined, just like this. Now we can use this custom error in our code. So instead of throwing new error, we'll just come here and say throw new custom error, and then we pass in invalid credentials. Come here, Ctrl C, paste it here, custom error, invalid credentials. So Ctrl S, let's log out again, and let's see if our error message will change. Let's just see. Alright, so I'm getting an error. So what you will do is just make sure you import this. So credentials sign in. So yeah, import that from Next.Auth, and this error should be gone. I don't know, my VS Code is so slow today. I don't know what's wrong. Yeah, so this error is gone. So let's save and let's sign out again. Okay, so now let's try signing in again. So let me do john@whatever.com. This is a fake one, and then the password, let me just put in any password, and then when I click on sign in, let's see the error message we're going to get this time. Yeah, so as you can see, we got this error. So error, you can see the code invalid credentials, error credentials sign in. Yeah, just like this. So with this now, we can actually go to our front end and handle the error. So let's close this, let's sign out again. So while it is signing out, let's go to our front end page. In our sign in page here, now what we are going to do is that now that we know what we are expecting, we can see the code, the error, we can actually perform magic here. So we'll just come here and say if you can get rid of this console.log, it has performed this function. So the next we're going to say is if response dot error. So if it exists, we're just going to return, which means that it is not going to take us back to the home page, and then it is not going to give us this signed in successfully. Now we're going to give the user an error message. So for that, you can use a toast, or you can display it to the user, any one of your choice. I prefer using toast. So toast.error, I'm going to come here and say if the response dot error, if it is equal to credentials sign in, if it is equal to this, I'm going to come here and say the toast message will be invalid credentials. Else, so if it is something that I did not handle, I'm just going to come here and say something went wrong, just like this. And let me shift this, sorry, Control S, and I don't know, let me explain this again. So if response.error, if it exists, I'm not going to display this success message, and I'm not going to push the user to the home page. Instead, I'm going to give the user an error toast message which checks if this response is equal to this credential signing. Remember that in our Auth.js we added the custom error. We give this a class of credentials sign in. So this, if it is equal to that, I'm going to say invalid credentials, else that means I did not handle the error, it is just another error message. Since I don't know the particular error it is, I'm just going to say something went wrong. So let's save this and let's check if it is going to work. So for the email, I'm just going to give this another nonsense email, and then for the password, let's see, click on sign in. Sorry, let's see if it's going to sign me in or it's going to display the error message. So let's check. As you can see, invalid credentials, and I am not taken to the home page. Now if I put in the correct one, which is john@gmail.com, and then for the password 123456, this should work. So let's see. So you can see signed in successfully, and I am taken back to the home page. Yeah, so this is nice. So if you are wondering as well, so like how can you get the user from the database, so that is a MongoDB problem. What you can do is just to create a route handler that is like fetch user, which gets the user from the database, and then for the key to use to get the user from the database, you can use the email from the session. As simple as that. So yeah, so this project is actually what I'm working on. I just said I should just drop this authentication because it actually took my time to figure out. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.